recording has started, and just confirm the live stream in a second. And we're live. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So this is the afternoon session of the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board. Welcome everybody. I'm just going to go to the Deputy Clerk to have a sediment taken just to make sure everybody's back.
Okay, so if you could indicate if you're here when I call your name. We have apologies from Mr. Stuart Adams, Miss Dawn Black.
Here.
Mr. Jeff Crowson.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Marion Eunson.
I'm here, thank you.
Mr. Jeff Goodall.
Here.
Trevor Mason.
Present.
Mr. Richard Menard.
Present.
Miss Jenny Nichol.
Present.
Miss Mel Sullivan.
Yep.
Mr. Ian Taylor.
Yeah, present.
Can I just confirm that PC Dixon is back in the meeting?
Present.
Thank you. And we have the LSOs and the team with us as well. We do have 2 members of the public in, but we'll identify them as we get to those hearings. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we restart now back at item 7 on the agenda, which is the application for a review of the premises licence, and it's a hearing and it's for the plough-in Macduff. I will hand over to Fiona to take the report.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just first confirm if Miss Marie Charles is in the meeting at all? Thank you, Chair. The licence holder has not confirmed whether or not she is attending the hearing today. I do have a brief email from her, so it's a preliminary matter before I introduce the report. Are you happy to proceed in the absence of the licence holder?
I would suggest yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. This report is a review of premises licence report submitted by the Licensing Standards Officer in relation to the plough-in and Macduff. It relates to the payment of the annual fee. The annual fee is what keeps a premises licence alive. It is to be paid by the 1st of October each year. In this case, we have granted the first ever arrangement for a licence holder to pay the fee by instalments. That arrangement was made that she could pay by instalments, the fee to be paid by the end of March. As you will see from the content of the LSO's review application, only one payment has been made to date, despite several attempts at contacting her, giving her advice. She did attempt to make a payment in cash, but unfortunately for insurance purposes, the council are not permitted to accept cash either in person as officers or at the service points. I can read out an email that she has submitted. I would advise that the review application did contain some information that related to the personal circumstances of the licence holder, and for that reason, as it's a public facing report, that information has been redacted. It is not for the board to put that information into a public arena. The procedure as is set out in the report, Chair, to hear from the LSO, Sarah Ward, who's here first. The applicant isn't here, but I can read out the terms of her email. The LSO has the right to respond, questions, debate and decision in the usual manner. So it relates to a non-payment of fee, which is a breach of a mandatory condition attached to the licence. And I'll hand back to you now, Chair, to follow the procedure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will just bring in Sarah. Can I just confirm that you're with us, Sarah Ward?
I am.
I can see you there. Okay. And the applicant isn't present, so we'll go straight to Sarah to speak to the review application, please.
Thank you. So as per the papers, this matter is for consideration as the premises licence holder has failed to comply with the mandatory conditions of the premises licence. The details regarding the background and communication lie within the report presented to you today, and it is unfortunate the licence review hearing of this nature has been called for the licensing board to consider the circumstances. At the time of calling for the review, I had hoped that the full payment of outstanding sum would be paid and that perhaps the licensing board may consider awarding for late payment. However, I note that no further payment has been made to date that I'm aware of. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Since the applicant isn't with us today, can I maybe go to Fiona to read out her email statement?
Thank you. This was an email received from the licence holder on the 15th of February. And to quote, "I'm not going to lie, but things have been extremely tough at the Plough-in recently. Plus our bank account has been frozen. I acknowledge receipt of the email and the delivery of the report, which was hand delivered as well as by email, and will make it a priority to get this paid as soon as possible." And that is the end of the email from the licence holder, Chair. Chair, I think you're on mute.
My handset control.
Can hear you again.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's not playing ball. Pressing the button, nothing happened. Sarah, do you want to add anything now that you've heard the content of the email?
Other than the licence holder did put our cards on the table in respect of non-compliance, struggling to meet ends meet on a day-to-day basis, lack of trade would be the circumstances around why there hasn't been full payment made to date. Yeah, difficult times for the trade at the moment. Perhaps the board may wish to consider allowing a further extension of payment. As you can see by my report, I have worked closely with the licence holder in terms of trying to resolve matters. The procedures for myself are that if I issue a non-compliant letter, non-compliance with that means I had to issue a notice. That notice had been served, and then sought advice from solicitors in terms of arrangements for initial late payment, where there was a sum paid of £65 before Christmas on the 22nd of December.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Members, do you have any questions? Mr. Goodall, please.
Yeah, I'm looking at 3.14 on our papers and the options we have before us. If we give them more time to play, does that include any of these? For instance, the issue of a written warning, or do we not do that and give them some more time to pay?
In this case, if you are of a mind to give the licence holder further time to pay, then the written warning, the options listed at 3.14 of the report would not apply, because you're still giving them further time to meet the compliance with the condition, albeit late, and you would only then can reconsider those on a further report to the board if the licence holder doesn't meet the extended deadline that you put into place. So you'd be giving her an opportunity to comply, so you're not yet at the point of a sanction. That might be the simplest way to put it. You're not yet at the point of a sanction if you decide as a board to give the licence holder more time to pay.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? I just have one question as well. If we were to give the licence holder more time, would they not run into the next year's licensing fee request?
It can do. We've given the licence holder to the end of the financial year, which is the end of March, which we've not yet reached, but we will be issuing renewal reminders for this year's payment late August, early September. So the longer you give the licence holder to pay the previous years, the more you're running into having to have reciprocal arrangements for the next year. So it could become a never-ending scenario that the licence holders continually struggling to catch up with their payments.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
No more questions? Sorry, with somebody in the meeting, Fiona.
Hello, who's speaking, please?
Hello, it is the Mr. Saverio Rossetti from Lochman Limited in
Right,
Banbury.
If you could just, I'll mute your microphone. We're in the middle of another hearing at the moment. So if you could just stay on the line and listen to the
Yep.
board meeting just now, and we'll bring you in when that matter comes to be considered by the board. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see any further questions here. Sarah, do you want to say, have you any closing remarks?
In terms of arrangements for making payment, I think maybe time frames would need to be set. I have communication with a licence and admin officer who we could put contact data on to set time frames for making payment. I'm mindful of January, February being a quieter time of the year for the trade. Like to think that things may pick up for them. But yeah, mindful of putting a time frame on even instalment payments. But again, we can't speak for their financial situation. Difficult times.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to come in, Mr. Menard?
Yeah, I take it you've gone through, from what I'm reading here, you've gone through all the statutory notifications and everything else right up to date. So the options are limited to what we can do, I take it.
I have. I've followed my procedures in terms of what the Licensing Scotland Act allows licensing standard officers to follow, and I've asked for an extension period back in December. Yeah.
Thank you. That just clarifies it for me.
Okay, thank you. Do members require any legal advice? No. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
Yep. Is it possible to suspend the license until the current fee is paid and next year's paid? Is that
Well,
a condition we can put onto the suspension, or does the suspension need to be for a specific amount of time?
right, you can't suspend in relation to next year's fees because we haven't actually asked her to pay them yet. That would come later on this year. In relation to this year's, you do have the option to suspend the licence for such period as the board sees fit. So you can suspend until such time as the outstanding current annual fee has been paid.
Okay, and is the new fee due on the 1st of April?
1st of October. We give
okay.
we give late payment. We give licence holders who don't pay by the 1st of October each year till the end of the financial year to pay. So
Okay.
that is to the end of March. They are legally bound to pay that by the 1st of October each year, but we give them leeway to pay until the end of the financial year. And in this case, as a first for the board, we actually agreed for payment to be made in instalments rather than the full amount. So that is a first for the board. So
Okay, thank you.
the date by which the payment is due is the 1st of October each year. And we are over that period now, arranged instalments, but they've not been paid, although she does have till the end of March to pay that. So you'd be perfectly entitled as a board to suspend the licence for failure to meet the mandatory condition until such time as the current annual fee has been paid.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goodall, please.
Thank you, Chair. But if we suspend the licence, she can no longer trade, so she won't be able to pay her bill.
Effectively, she can trade, but she can't sell alcohol. So any other activities she could still open to do, but she can't sell alcohol, and that might well be effectively the same as revoking the licence, that she won't have enough business demand to be able to enable her to pay the balance of the fee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Quite a difficult situation, I think, that the owner is in. Can you outline the terms of the legal test, please, Fiona?
Yes, Chair, 2 seconds. So the legal test is that for failure to comply, you find that a ground is established, and the ground in this case would be breach of a mandatory condition, i.e. failure to pay the fee by within the arrangements that have been made. So if you're satisfied that a ground of review is established, then you may take one or more of the following steps: to issue a written warning, to vary the terms of the licence, to suspend the licence for such period as the board sees fit, or revoke the licence. If, as a board member indicated, you wish to give them more time to pay, then you've not reached the stage of imposing a sanction. You're giving them a further opportunity to comply with the mandatory condition. And if they fail to comply with that extension, so to speak, this would come back to the board, and at that point, one of the 4 options would be available to you. So first of all, you have to establish if a ground of review is definitely established. In this case, it would be a breach of the mandatory condition to pay the annual fee, and then determine what you're going to do next. Either give them further time to pay, or make one of the 4 options, take one of the 4 options set out in section 3.14 of the board report.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You can see those options on page 339 of your papers, if you want to refer to them. Next question, do members wish to retire to deliberate? No, we can continue. So I'll now open the matter to members for debate. So I suppose that first point is, have we, is there a ground of review based on the failure to comply with the licensing conditions, which is the breach of the mandatory condition of payment of their fee? Mr. Goodall, please.
Yeah, this is quite difficult. I can understand the position the applicant is in, but it's their personal business about earnings, etc., and debt. But I'm just very I've been in business for too long to not be aware of other business people who have been in this situation, so I can respect what they're going through. But on one hand, I'm thinking, well, are they prolonging their own agony? And yet on another hand, I'm thinking we should be lenient with them, because I wouldn't like to see any business which has a possibility of succeeding being put out of business because of what one might say is a bureaucratic stroke of a pen. So I'd be interested to hear what everyone else is wanting to say on this, but my view would be to give them more time to pay and take it from there. You're muted again, Marion.
Still can't hear you.
Right, we'll resort to touching the screen.
That's
Ms. Black,
that's
please.
you.
That's it. Thank you. I've thought long and hard about this, and from what I can understand from both the papers and what's been said today, the license holder has already been given the opportunity to pay late, which, from what Fiona has recently said, takes us up to the end of March. She has until the end of the March, so that's already given her more time to pay, if you kind of get where I'm going, as by our standard protocol for late payments. I'm of the mind that we can't just let it go, though, and that perhaps the least of a sanction would be a written warning, because that would not affect their ability to trade as they currently are, which also gives them the ability to try and increase their trade to enable them to pay the fee. Obviously, then, you know, we've then got next year's, and for the reasons that Jeff has just said, that that, you know, you don't want to, you know, if someone is potentially going to be able to pull themselves up and get that business turned around, you don't want to cut them off from it. But, you know, with a written warning, then if she's sanctioned, but she can still trade, and then if that payment has not been made by the deadline of the end of March, which is what she's already got, then it could be brought back for further consideration and further sanction if it hasn't been paid at that point. That's kind of where my mind is at the moment.
Thank you. And I think I would agree with your comments there. Mrs. Nicholl, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, difficult one. I don't disagree that there's been a breach here. I mean, we see that there's been a failure of payment. However, I'm of a mind that we should give the applicant to the end of March and see, at that point, we could be in a very different position, and we could be looking at this returning to us anyway. But I think to give that time in the hope that there will be arrangements made to get this paid, we could leave till the end of March. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
I'm concerned that she said her bank account has been frozen. So I'm not, if she can't pay by cash, I'm wondering if she will have the ability to pay at all. It sounds like the business is going bankrupt. But that aside, I would be willing to offer a further extension to the end of April, just because that covers the Easter holidays, if that would help, if that would be her last chance to get this business working. But after that, her license needs to be suspended. Sorry, the premises license needs to be suspended until full payment is made. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Menard, please.
Well, I'm going to be a bit harsh here. The lady's had since October of last year to comply with the requirement. They had quite a good Christmas, let's put it that way, to my knowledge, and surely to God, the measly sum that we're actually asking from them could have been given across. So my mind is no. I think we should take immediate action and revoke the license, and that's my honest opinion. I don't have any truck with this. I know she's probably got financial difficulties, but no, we can't. If we let this go, then we're going to be opening up a can of worms further down the line for other businesses. Like I say, she's had plenty of opportunity to pay, and she's not bothered. It's only because she's been chased. If she hadn't been chased, she wouldn't have bothered, and that's my honest opinion. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Menard. Mr. Goodall, please.
Yeah, I would have actually gone along with Dawn's suggestion, only give her a little bit more time. I'm concerned that, yes, she may have had a good Christmas, but that could be for paying off other bills, and yes, a smallish amount, but we don't know the situation, so we can't, in my view, take action based on supposition. I would give it a little bit of more time, because we don't, this is a quiet period, and April might be, or March in particular, I doubt if she will have sufficient funds by then to be able to clear this, or even to help to clear it. We probably need to give her until April or May, the other side of Easter, before she could probably be in a position to do something. The other thing I'd like to say is that if we revoke it, or whatever we decide to do to this license, it won't do us much good, because we're not going to get paid anyway if she does go bankrupt or doesn't have the money. So from that perspective, quite happy to give her a bit more time to pay because it won't do us any harm. I think that's about it. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Mason, please.
Yeah, I think if we let it run past April the 1st, then then it's doubling up again. Just got another payment to make, which is going to be very difficult. I was wondering if there was any possibility that you could pay someone by cash, if that's possible. It seemed like she had the cash available, but she couldn't pay because her bank account's frozen, so she can.
No,
We
sought advice from finance on that, Mr. Mason, and their response was quite unequivocal. The council does not accept cash payments anymore. It has to be by other means. Can certainly go back to finance if you want us to do that, but I'm not so sure that the advice will change, but we can certainly take it back to finance if you instruct us to do that. But certainly the advice that we got from finance was no cash payments at all. The service points don't even take cash. It has to be by an alternative means.
It's just,
Chair,
it's very
can I
difficult.
jump in with a follow-up question for that?
No, just hold on there, Mrs. Sullivan. Yeah. It's Mr. Mason.
It's going to be very difficult to pay when you don't have a bank account to pay with, and I don't see another way around that unless you get somebody else to pay it. Would that be acceptable? Would it?
As long as we get the money towards that account, that
but I'm not in favour of.
Duty.
Yeah, I'm not in favour of going past April the 1st because you're starting to increase the payments then. Just to give it the end of the March, I think is the best bet. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I've got a couple other members here, but I mean, one solution to this might be, because we keep talking about March and April, is to defer this hearing until our April board meeting and see what position the licensee is in then. That might cover some of the points that were raised in around the time scale. So I don't know how members feel about that, but I'll bring in Mr. Menard and then I'll go to Sarah, the LSO. Mr. Menard, please.
Well, I was going to suggest exactly the same as you, Chair. I think, from my personal point of view, I would revoke it. However, going by the rest of my colleagues here, I think if we defer it, it gives them ample chance to resolve the situation, and if not, then we can take it forward. So I would agree with you. Thank you.
I see Mr. Taylor's hand up as well. I'll just go to him and then I'll come to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, difficult position though this is. I think we have to. And one thing in our favour I would regard is at least the licence holder is corresponding and is aware of the situation, but I think we need to take a harder stance and say that this needs to be paid by the end of the month, end of March, because it's been commented earlier, you were into another year and things continue. So somewhere or other, the lance has to be, the boil has to be balanced, and action has to be taken somehow or other. So it's some action, and I think maybe the written warning from the board adds to the undoubted work that Sarah has done to try and get this money. It might mean the emphasis on getting it cleared by the end of March. So I would favour taking some action now rather than deferring it. But I appreciate the action is just simply to be a written warning in the hope that that generates the money coming in. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go, I think, to Sarah because she's been waiting to come in.
Many thanks. Yeah, just a couple of points there. If the licence holder had been present, she would have been able to explain her situation regarding her banking issue. She was forthcoming with information to myself in that she did confirm to me at a visit, I think at the beginning of February, visit to premise 8th of February, that her business account had been frozen because she hadn't completed a form, and there's a statutory period of time before that bank account can be reopened, I assume, or access to. So given that was the 8th of February, I'm not sure whether she's in a different position with her business banking or not now. And just a matter of clarity, the financial year being the 1st of April isn't the same for premises paying their annual fee. It's the 1st of October, so the next bill won't go out until August to licence holders. So that we don't need to consider that at the moment. That'll be for end of the year.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. That's helpful. Mr. Goodall, please.
I was just going to point out what Sarah has just done, in that it's not April that she needs to pay the bill by, and it's going to be October. So she's plenty of time. If we defer it, as you suggest, until April, we can then, if necessary, issue a warning letter or whatever. But that gives her ample time to get her ducks in a row and get this sorted out. And that's the way I would go. Thank you.
Okay. Remembering that would be, the next bill would be added to the one she has already. It would be another amount.
Yeah, but it's not until October.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to come in on.
Yeah. If she doesn't pay by April, sorry, Sarah, you're going to explain better than I.
No, it's Fiona.
It's Fiona. Just to say that the current fee should have been paid on the 1st of October 2023. We allow late payers a specific time before we officially review the premises licence normally, which is till the end of the financial year before we take action. So that's the end of March. In this case, we put into place special arrangements for the instalments to be paid over a period of time until the end of the financial year. Only one instalment has been made. If you give her extended time, it is only for the current payment. She won't get a bill for the next annual fee due on the 1st of October this year until late September, October, and the whole process starts all over again. So you're solely concentrating on a failure to comply with the payment that was due on the 1st of October 2023. With regard to a written warning, I think it's premature to do that. If you are going to give her time, you defer a final decision. You defer this report to the April board or even the June board if you are so minded. And that point is when, if she's failed to pay by then, the report comes back to the board, and then you consider one of the 4 sanctions available to you. I think if you're going to give her time, you do that. If you're not prepared to give her time, you look at a sanction now, and that would be your written warning, your suspension, your revocation, etc. But you can't do both together. You're giving her time or you're not, as the case may be, and tie it into a board meeting. If she does pay, we will notify the board in between times, and the review application report will fall. It wouldn't need to come back to the board. It will only come back to the board if she fails to pay. So you're not, the financial year is not the key date in terms of the fee, that's October, but in terms of the period of time that we normally give a late payer to pay, that is the end of the financial year, which is the end of March.
Okay, thank you. I think that's very clear to members. So can I ask at this stage then, would members be happy to defer this application, this hearing, to the April board? I haven't got the date in the top of my head. Defer it to the April meeting, and then we can look at the status then and decide whether or not we want to opt for any sanctions. Yes. Mr. Crowthorne.
If we do defer this, would we be able to ask for an update on the progress of getting the account back up and running? Would that be some further information we could ask for? Or is it too late for me to bring that up?
If you defer this, Sarah and ourselves will continue to work with the licence holder to try and encourage the payment to be made. If no payment is made, or if further information comes to light for the reasons why she can't pay, that will be built into the report that comes back to the board in April. The report will be updated. So if you defer till our time to pay, she'll receive a written notification of today's decision regardless, but we will continue to work with her because the aim is to get this paid. But any reason for failure to pay that we are made aware of will be built into the report that comes back to the board in April.
And obviously Sarah's just heard what I was asking for just now, so she would keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah has gone above and beyond her statutory duties here to try and assist this licence holder. So, you know, that is the approach that we take. We will take all steps necessary to work with the licence holder because the aim is to get her to comply. That's what we want.
I know.
So it's something we will always do, yeah.
I wasn't suggesting she wasn't. It was this question about not
Yeah.
knowing how long the bank account would take to get up and running again.
Yeah.
To have that information if it comes back again.
Yeah, if the licence holder doesn't divulge that information, we won't be able to provide it. But we'll do everything that we can, I think, essentially is what we're saying.
Okay. I would just suggest that her bank account status is not really our business. Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, two things. Firstly, if what you were putting forward, Marion, was a motion, then I would second it. Yeah, absolutely. I think we defer it to April. That gives her to the end of March and, you know, if need be, a couple of weeks into April for that Easter period. And also it could maybe be suggested to her that if she only has the ability to pay in cash, she gets a third party to pay the bill for her. And I don't know why that hasn't happened. If she's tried to pay cash and has been told, unfortunately, you can't, why hasn't she given that cash to somebody else to pay on her behalf?
Yeah, that thought was in my mind as well. I'll bring in Jeff and then I think we will formally make that a motion. Jeff, Mr. Goodall, please.
I just agree with yourself, Chair and Dawn. We should defer until our next meeting and hopefully she'll have everything sorted out by then.
Okay. Thank you. So that motion would be to defer this application for further information until the 24th of April. I have a seconder. I think that's Dawn.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Any contrary view? Is that a unanimous decision? Okay, Fiona, do you just want to summarise that?
So in summary, we have a motion moved by yourself, seconded by Ms. Black, to defer consideration to the April board for further information and to allow the licence holder further time to pay, and failure to pay will result in this report being brought back for further determination at the April board on the 24th of April.
Okay, thank you. So that now concludes that hearing. Thank you for your interest in that business. The applicant isn't here, so there's nobody that needs to leave the meeting, and we'll move on to item 8, which is the first of our repeated occasional licence applications hearing for today. And the first one is Mamma Mia at 71 High Street, Bankery. So we just see if we have anybody in the meeting for that item.
Can I confirm if there's Alicia Robertson present in the meeting?
Sorry. Saverio Rossetti, which I'm appointed to discuss the matter.
I'm sorry, what is your role? Because we have nothing authorising you to act on behalf of Alicia Robertson.
Strange, because an email has been sent to you, but I have Alicia Robertson here beside me. It's been an email been sent on the 22nd of February.
Okay, let me have our paralegal Harriet try and trace that, please, in the background.
No problem, but I have Alicia Robertson beside me here.
Okay,
anyway.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair, if we can't find the email, Lucia Robertson will have to speak directly rather than the gentleman.
It's been sent the 22nd of February, and they stated my name, which we'll discuss, and as well also my telephone number on the email. But as I said, it's not a problem.
I can confirm that an email was sent on the 13th of February to Les Lutcherman, which is the address on the application.
Yep, correct.
Provided by Lisa Robertson.
Yeah, Lisa Robertson is beside me, but again, she sent an email says I was taking the conversation, but if you don't have that email, Lisa Robertson is here beside me, anyway.
Yeah, so we're looking for an email from Mr. Lutcherman.
Lutcherman, yes, to you
Sorry,
guys.
to us on the 22nd of February, Harriet?
Yes, addressed to Harriet.
I will just double check in the background, Fiona.
Thank you.
Sorry for that.
In the meantime, Chair, I'll outline the reason for the report.
Okay.
The report is before you today under the board's repeated occasional licence policy, whereby after a period of 3 months of regular applications, the officer, such as myself, no longer has delegated power to grant these applications, and instead they have to be brought before the board for an explanation as to why a premises licence application has not been made where it is routine trading. You'll see that the report sets out the history of applications that has been made to date. I believe, Chair, that Harriet will have an update on the position of a premises licence, but there is an official representation from our licensing standards officer in relation to the latest applications, which are highlighted in the report at 3.14, and it is for the board to determine whether or not these are to be granted today based on an explanation for the lack of a premises licence provided by the applicant. So before I ask you to turn to the procedure in the report, Chair, I'll turn back to Harriet to confirm whether we received the email on the 22nd and to give us an update on the types of application that we have lodged with us at the current time. Harriet?
Thank you, Fiona. I've checked. Apologies, I've not received an email on the 22nd of February. If it was sent to myself, I don't know if it's bounced back, but it's definitely not been received on my end. But I can confirm that a premises licence application has now been lodged for this premises, and it is due to be reviewed in due course.
Thank you, Harriet. Chair, in that case, because we have no written confirmation that the gentleman is authorised to act on behalf of the applicant, and given that the applicant is present on the phone, it will be for the applicant to speak to the applications today, rather than Mr. My apologies for pronouncing your name wrong, Mr. Lutzman. Can you just repeat your name?
Oh, hi there. The phone was just passed to myself.
Okay, right. Okay,
yeah.
So I'll just
It's Mr. Rossetti, Fiona.
Mr. Rossetti, thank you, Keith. So I'll just hand back to the chair now to follow the procedure set out in the report, Chair. So it'll be Miss Robertson that needs to speak. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's Mrs. Robertson now. Hello?
Yeah, hello, Chair, you're on mute.
Right, thank you. So if you just stay in the call there, Mrs. Robertson, I'll start the procedure and I'll explain to you when you can speak. So first of all then, just to note that the board meeting is being recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. Excuse me. So just confirm, first of all, that Mrs. Robertson is present.
Yes, I am.
Yep. And also confirm that Keith Simpson, the LSO, is present.
Yes, present.
Yes, thank you. That's the Licensing Standards Officer. And is everyone satisfied they've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So in line with the guidance that you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for the licensing board hearing, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking if your phone permits this. Please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt other speakers or you may be removed from the meeting. Once you've been asked to make your concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. So then just please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I will resume the meeting. And at that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So if we go first to you, Mrs. Robertson, to outline the terms of your application to the board, you might want to address some of the concerns raised in the representation, which is obviously to do with the repeated use of occasional licenses. So over to you first, Mrs. Robertson.
Yes, so I was using the occasional license because I moved premises recently. When I moved premises, I had to apply for a new license, which took some time for us to settle in and to see what our customers was looking forward to. Unfortunately, because we didn't have a license, we lose a lot of business until I got the occasional license, and which took us to this point of getting our license. We have been aware that there was a time limit for the license to get done. So in order for us to proceed, we had to apply for a few occasional licenses.
Okay. So just to explain, can I stop you there briefly? I think you're alluding to the hearing today isn't to discuss your application for your premises license. This is to discuss your latest application for occasional licenses. Just to make sure you're clear. Thank you. You can carry on, Mrs. Robertson.
Yeah, actually we did apply for occasional license just until we get the premises license. So our goal end is to get our premises license.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say at this point?
I would like for you to consider us to get the premises license due to where we at now. It's becoming quite popular since getting the license, and I will hope to get our license to proceed as soon as possible.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Miss Stewart, please.
Just to explain for Mrs. Robertson that we've received your application for a premises licence, but there's a process that has to go through before the board can consider that, and we're just at the start of that process. So the board cannot consider your premises licence today. We've still got to check that the application is competent. It still has to go out to consultees to be processed, and once it's processed, it will then come before the board. So all that we're considering today is the current occasional licenses that have been referred to the board for determination, and I would also seek the view of the board on any future applications that come in while the premises license is being processed. So at a future board, the board will consider your premises license applications, but the board is not in a position to do that today because that application has still to be processed. So it's only the occasionals that we're dealing with today. So I hope that explains the situation for you.
Yes, because I wasn't in the meeting before and the phone was just passed to me. I was taken back by the actual application. However, now that it is cleared up, I know I do have, after this first occasional license, which I applied for on the 21st of February, I was granted that. I'm really hoping, because of the seasons are coming back up, and the customers are reverting to us now that we had told them we got back an occasional license. I hope you reconsider and grant us the other 2 occasional license, and we are just hoping to carry on with occasional license just until we get the premises license. We did pay for the premises license already, so everything is set for us, and we just would like to process, if possible, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll now ask the Licensing Standards Officer, Keith Simpson, please to speak to his representation.
Yes, good afternoon, convener, board members. The applications before you today are for 4 occasional licenses made by personal licence holder Lesia Robertson for the premises known as Mamma Mia Bankery. The applications were submitted on the 8th of January, covering the period 21st of February 2024 to the 15th of April 2024 inclusive. These applications are the most recent of a series of occasional licenses dating back to the 9th of August 2022. The premises itself is a small Italian restaurant pizzeria set on the Bankery High Street and consists of a sit-in dining area, takeaway and a small street cafe area. I now can confirm that an application for a premises licence has been submitted by Lutchman Limited and is currently being progressed through due process. Given that these premises have been running on occasional licence for more than 3 months, I consider these applications to be inconsistent with para 4.45 of the Supplementary Policy 4 of the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board Statement of Licensing Policy. The purpose of my representation is to make the board aware of this potential departure from the policy and for you to consider the matter. If the board are minded to grant these applications, my proposed conditions are to be applied are set out in my letter of representation. I think it is fair to say that I've spent quite a bit of time with Mrs. Robertson and Mr. Rossetti trying to assist them through the process. I think the occasional licenses I'm not objecting to. Now that we have a full premises license application in the system, I would certainly be happy to go forward with these if the board are minded to grant them whilst that's going through due process. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Keith. So, Mrs. Robertson, now, is there anything you want to add, having heard from the Licensing Standards Officer?
No, I'm satisfied with his response.
Okay, thank you. So, members, have you any questions to ask of either party? No. So in that case, we can go to close it. Oh, Mr. Mason.
Yeah, it was just a small point about these occasional licenses come up to the 31st of March. What happens if there's an overlap between the new license starting? Can we extend that, or do they?
The occasional licenses take the applicant up to the 15th of April. The likelihood is that if there are issues with the license, we have 6 months to process a premises license application. We try and do it a lot quicker than that, but we won't allocate it to a board until we know it's ready to go, hopefully as a non-contentious application. And we haven't even checked the competency of that application yet. So what I would be asking the board is, over and above dealing with the 4 applications that you currently have, is to determine whether you wish officers to continue to process further occasional applications under delegated power pending the premises license application coming to a board, because it can only be granted at a board, or whether you wish future applications to be referred to the board, or the other alternative is that the officers can consider them following consultation with the convener. Obviously, if things don't proceed quickly with the premises licence and it stalls for whatever reason, it has happened before, then officers would bring this back to the board should you choose to allow further applications for occasionals under delegated powers meantime. So it's the 4 applications before you that take the applicant to the 15th of April. At current point in time, I can't guarantee that the premises licence will be ready to come to the board in April, so future occasionals may be required. So it's how you wish those future occasionals to be determined as well that we'd be asking for a steer from the board on.
Right,
Okay, thank you. So moving to closing remarks. Keith, do you want to add anything?
No, nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Robertson, do you want to add any closing remarks?
No, thank you.
Okay. So in that case, members, do you require any legal advice from the clerk?
No.
No. In that case, Fiona, can you outline the terms of the legal tests for the application? I think you just did, really, but you're on mute.
My apologies, we're all doing this today. My apologies. Essentially, I have just outlined the legal test. At this point in time, there are no grounds upon which to refuse the applications. The point is to try and ensure that the applicant moves towards the premises licence, which you have evidence today that they are working towards. So any grant of occasional licence today would be subject to the recommended conditions submitted both by Police Scotland and the licence holder. So to determine these 4 applications, but also to give myself and the team a steer on how you wish to proceed with future applications to allow them to continue to trade while the premises licence application is being processed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do members wish to retire to deliberate?
No.
No. So in that case, I'll open the matter for debate. Is there anything further? No. So can you just confirm that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
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 Remember. Yeah. So in that case, I would call for a motion. Ms. Black, please.
Thank you. It looks like I was just quicker than everyone else on my button. Yes, thank you, Chair. I would, as there is now a application for a full licence in, I would be minded to put forward that we grant these licences, these occasional licences, and that any future occasionals that come in during the time that the licence is being processed are referred to the convener for decision. Thank you. And we seek a seconder.
Is there a seconder for that? Mr. Crowson?
Yeah, I would second that.
You wouldn't be happy for it just to be under delegated powers? They're dealing with future applications.
If I can come back in as it's my motion, I would say for the reasons that Ms. Stewart has outlined, in case the licence stumbles along the way, I don't think giving it for delegated powers on a long-term basis would be a good idea. So no, I would say it needs to be in conjunction with yourself.
Okay, thank you.
I would still second that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Menard, please.
Yes, well, actually, I was going to say we just go for delegated powers to officers. That was the only amendment I was looking to make. Thank you.
Okay.
So is that a formal amendment to grant the current applications and instruct officers to grant under delegated powers future applications as opposed to the motion?
For want of a better word, yes.
So, Chair, need to seek a seconder for that.
Yeah. The assurance there would be, if there was an issue, they would bring it back to the board. Yeah. Is there a seconder for that amendment from Mr. Menard? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, I'll, oh, excuse me. I'll happily second the amendment on the assurance that you have just said that if something fails, it'll come back to the board anyway. Thank you.
Okay, right. So we've got a proposer and a seconder for that amendment. Can I just ask Fiona to confirm the motion and amendment, please?
Thank you. The motion, excuse me, is with Ms Black, seconded by Mr Crowson, to grant the current applications subject to the recommended conditions, but that future applications while the premises licence is being processed be granted or be considered in conjunction with the board convener. The amendment with Mr Maynard, seconded by Mr Taylor, is to grant the current application subject to the recommended conditions, but that officers deal with future applications under delegated powers until such time as the premises licence is granted, on the basis that officers would bring it back if the processing of that application stalls.
Okay, thank you. So, any summing up required? I'll go first of all to Mr Maynard, please.
I think Fiona summed it up for me quite admirably. I stand by that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms Black?
No, nothing further to add.
Okay, in that case then, Fiona, can we move to the vote?
Thank you, Chair. Mr Adams is not here. Other board members, if you indicate whether you're for the motion or the amendment. Ms Dawn Black?
Motion.
Mr Jeff Crowson?
Motion.
Ms Marion Ewanson?
Amendment.
Hang on a second. My cursor's not moving quickly enough. Mr Jeff Goodall?
Amendment.
Mr Trevor Mason?
Amendment.
Richard Menard?
Amendment.
Ms Jenny Nicol?
Motion.
Ms Mel Sullivan?
Motion.
And Mr Ian Taylor? Mr Taylor?
Sorry, didn't unmute. Amendment.
Thank you. Chair, we have 4 votes for the motion and 5 votes for the amendment, so the amendment is carried.
Okay, thank you. Not a huge
Cheers.
difference there in terms of the applicant, it's just how we're dealing with the applications.
Do you want me to confirm the decision for the applicant's sake?
Confirm the decision, yeah.
So, Ms Robertson, I can confirm that the board has granted your 4 current occasional licence applications today, subject to the conditions recommended by the police and the licensing standards officer, and future applications will be dealt with under delegated powers by officers while your premises licence application is being processed. But if the processing of that application stalls, officers will bring back occasional licensing applications to the board for consideration for further explanation. So your applications today have been granted. You'll get written notification of the decision in the next 7 days, and your licenses will be issued to you in due course. And thank you for attending today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I can confirm that this hearing has now concluded. Thank you for your interest in this business, and I will now ask you to leave the meeting.
Thank you.
And we will then move on to item 9, which is a repeated occasional licence application, and it's a hearing, and it's for the boxes, Chapelton of Elsick, Stonehaven.
I am expecting the applicant to be present for the boxes. Can you confirm that you're here? If your microphone is muted, it's either *5 or *6 to unmute. And if you could confirm your name, please.
Yeah, I can confirm the representation. My name's Andy Christie. I'm the co-founder and director of Devonick Drinks at the Boxes.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Chair, Mr. Christie has been listening in already. So this is the same processes as previous application, repeat applications, representation from the Licensing Standards Officer who's present today, and it's to consider the reasons for continued occasionals and why there is or is not movement towards a full premises licence for the regular trade at this premises. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm seeing somebody with their hand up with a phone number. Who's got their hand up?
Hello.
Hello, you've got your hand up. Who am I speaking to?
Brian Gray, also director and founder.
Brian, thank you. So
Gray.
Brian Gray. So we have Andy Christie and Brian Gray representing the applicant, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Helpful if, oh, I've lost my screen. It'd be helpful, Mr. Gray, if you could put your hand down so it doesn't pop up. If you're able to do that. Not easy when you're attending by phone. So just to let you know, the board meeting is being recorded and will be published online for public viewing after the meeting. I will now ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm the procedure for the hearing, just for the benefit of yourselves. You're on mute again, Fiona.
We're going to have some mute training for officers and board members. My apologies. So as explained to both applicants, this is to do with repeat occasionals, similar to the previous hearing. The procedure is to hear from the applicants, hear from the Licensing Standards Officer. The applicants have a right of reply, questions to all parties, concluding remarks in reverse order, and then for the board to reach a determination, Chair. At this point, before you hear from the applicant, I'll ask Harriet, our paralegal, to confirm whether there's been any further applications or premises applications made since the report was written for the board.
Thank you, Fiona. I can confirm that there's no premises application lodged currently.
Thank you. Chair, over to you for the process.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, can I just confirm for the purposes of the hearing that Mr. Andrew Christie is present?
Present.
And I'll just add in as well, Mr. Brian Gray, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. And are you satisfied that you've received all of the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll move on and just check that the Licensing Standards Officer, Keith Simpson, is present.
Yes, present, Chair.
Okay, and similarly that you're satisfied that you've received all the relevant information.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. So in line with the guidance that you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphones when not speaking if your phone permits this. Please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt the other speakers. If you do, you may be removed from the meeting. And then once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. And once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. So just please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I can resume the meeting. And at that point, the recording will be restarted. So if I go straight, I think, Andrew, do you want to speak first just to outline the terms of the application to the board? And you might want to address some of the concerns raised in the representation, which is obviously the use of repeat occasional licenses. So I'll go over to you first and I'll leave it up to you two how you want to share the time.
Okay. Yeah, this is Andy speaking now. So the applications are for our tap room and bottle shop located out at the boxes at Chapelton. The boxes at Chapelton are 20-foot shipping containers that have been erected for startup businesses to use. We started out with a single unit in December 2022, and we have just taken on a third unit on location within the immediate area. The reason for the continuous use of occasional licenses was based on the fact we kept growing the business to add additional units. We were establishing the business in the region to make sure that it was going to be a success before going through the premises application. I did speak to Keith in the past, and he guided us on the process of this and the requirements for it. So we did start the process offline. Nothing was submitted because we spoke to the estate through our landlords, who advised us that the location the boxes are currently situated on is a temporary location, and they are to be moved to a different location, which would require a new application for all premises on the box park. So they couldn't give us a timeline on when this was going to happen. We were told, you know, it could be a year, it could be less, more. So we made a decision to continue with the occasional licenses up until the period that we could get assurances that of a timeline of when the boxes would be moved, or if they were going to be in this current location for a considerable period of time, then it would give us the comfort to proceed with applying for a premises license. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything Mr. Gray wants to add? Since you're both there. No.
Nope.
Okay. So in that case, thank you. And I'll go to the Licensing Standards Officer, Keith Simpson, to speak to his representation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The applications before you are for 6 occasional licenses made by personal licence holder Andrew Christie for the premises known as Units 4 to 6, the boxes, Chapelton, Newton Hill, Stonehaven. The applications were submitted earlier this year, covering a period from the 19th of February 2024 to the 12th of May 2024 inclusive. These applications are the most recent of a series of occasional licenses dating back to the 1st of December 2022. As Mr. Christie's explained, the premises themselves are 3 industrial units within a retail area of the new village of Chapelton near Newton Hill. There are 2 units used for on-premises consumption, and 1 unit is an off-sales, I think they call it the bottle shop. There is also an outside covered area with picnic tables and benches for alfresco drinking. To date, there have been no applications for a premises licence, and this has been explained as due to the fact that the premises are not permanent and can be moved. As Mr. Christie has explained, that he is aware that a premises licence may be required, and as such has commenced the process of completing the necessary application forms. Given that these premises have been running on occasional licences for more than 3 months, I consider these applications to be inconsistent with para 4.45 of Supplementary Policy 4 of the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board Statement of Licensing Policy. The purpose of my representation is to make the board aware of this potential departure from policy and for you to consider the matter. If the board is minded to grant these applications, my proposed conditions to be applied are set out in my letter of representation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Christie, have you got anything you want to add now that we've heard from the Licensing Standards Officer?
No, thank you. That was good, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now, board members, have you any questions? Can I just ask one before anybody puts their hand up? Keith, you mentioned outside area for alfresco drinking.
Yep.
Is that, whose license does that come under then? Is it part of this?
It's part of the layout of where these units. I did actually try and provide some photographs for the board to give you, because I always think that perhaps, you know, a picture tells 1,000 words, and you'll see that where the units are located, at the back of the area called the boxes, and it's part of the layout to the license application. So it's all connected to the license for the 3 units. It's a small area. It's covered, and it's got picnic tables there just for more room for the boxes themselves are quite small for actual on consumption, so it would give just a wee bit more space for people to sit and consume alcohol.
So that's not used by any of the other boxes? No. Just these. Okay, thank you. So, Mr.
Well,
Taylor,
again, Mr. Christie might be better to answer that. If there's anybody from, say the ice cream shop, which is next door, or whatever, there could be but if it's exclusively used for them, I think he would need to answer that.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Christie, can you maybe answer that?
Yes, absolutely. It is for paying customers of our business that the area has been provided for. The area in question is also in our tenancy agreement as belonging to us, so it's for our use only.
Okay, thank you. Let's clear that one up in my mind. Mr. Taylor, please.
Yes, thank you. It's actually a question for Fiona in terms of what's the procedure if and when the premises license is applied for and is needed to move from one site, one address to another address.
Okay, the license doesn't move from premises to premises. So if the boxes are moved to a different location and they're a different address, then new licenses would be required. However, if they're moved to a different location within the same grounds and nothing else is changing, including capacity, and I would need to research this. This is me thinking based on my experience of the Act. It may, and I'm saying that with a big underline, be something that we could look at a major variation for, because it's not moving to premises with a different address, but I would need to look into that further. The normal course of action is if a premises moves from one premises to another, then they need a new license for that other premises if that premises is not already licensed, because they can transfer the license in those circumstances. So that I know for a fact. The variation bit is me surmising, and I would need to do further legal research into that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for any of the parties? I suppose it's quite unusual in that these are temporary units. So, you know, normally when we're looking at a premises license, it's bricks and mortar.
The Act does provide for licenses for vehicles, vessels and stalls. The problem with these boxes is they don't necessarily fit into any of those categories. So that gives the applicant some difficulty, Chair.
Yeah, because they're not on wheels. So, no further questions, members? In that case, I'll go to Keith Simpson. Any closing remarks?
No, nothing to add, Chair, other than yes, it's an unusual situation that we find ourselves in because of the nature of the buildings themselves. What I can say is that each individual unit has its own rateable value, so you know it is on the valuation roll, etc. But I'm certainly minded for the fact that perhaps the applicant in this situation has not been as forthcoming with a premises application, given the nature of what he has before him, insofar as he doesn't know about the permanency. But as I say, no direct objection to the continued use of the occasional licenses, but obviously up for the board to determine that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my house phone's ringing in the background and the butler's gone out for a walk. There's nobody to answer it. Miss Black, please.
Sorry, I was putting my hand up preemptively for the debate.
Okay.
Because that's Keith's summing up, isn't it? So
yeah, I'm still at Mr. Christie then for his summing up. You anything to add, Mr. Christie?
Yeah, no, I think you know, Keith certainly helped sum it up perfectly for us there. You know, as he can also attest to, we're certainly not against having to go down the premises license route, but just for you guys to bear in mind the complexity of where we are and the uncertainty of time frames of new locations that we face. And thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. And I think you said, Mr. Christie, that the estate hadn't given you a particular time scale, had they?
Yes, that's correct. It's a bit like most of the developments out there. It's a growing village with schools and everything to go in over a period of time. It's a moving target that we are asking for, because we need, you know, continuity for our own benefits and business. So it's something we do ask on a regular basis an update on.
Okay, thank you. So, board members, do you require any legal advice? No, no indications. So could the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the legal tests for this application?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, it wanted me to leave the meeting there. That's why I got a surprised look on my face. The legal test is set out in the papers, but in this case, there's no grounds to refuse these applications. Where you're being asked to consider the grant of the applications before you today. And I would recommend that they're granted subject to the recommended conditions if you are minded to grant. You've been given an explanation as to why a premises licence has not yet been lodged, but I would also like a steer as to what you expect officers to do with future applications, because we have no set timeline here for when a premises licence will be lodged, because the landlord has not given the applicant that certainty and times of scale, and our policy does have a 3-month period. There are exceptions to every policy, as you're very well aware of as a board, and has the applicant justified a departure to that policy and continued occasionals meantime, I'm in the board's hands on that one.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Black, please.
Sorry, are we going into debate now?
Well, just the only other thing is, do members wish to retire to deliberate?
No.
No, in that case, we'll go on with the debate. So, Ms. Black, please.
Thank you. Knowing Chapelton, it's just outside my ward. It is a village that is growing. It is changing all the time as the new phases get put into place, as the applicant has stated. So it's not in the normal scheme of how developments go, because it is a completely new village that's being built there out of nothing. And it is absolutely great that these boxes were put into place so that there was some provision for the residents there before shops, etc., are built. So I think it is very unique circumstances in this instance. And in my mind, I think, you know, because of that unique circumstance, deviating from the policy on the basis so that to allow the applicant to operate on the occasionals for the time being is fair enough. Don't want to add additional financial burdens to a business if we don't have to, in, you know, that they might put in this application for a full license just now, and as has already been stated, they have no steer whatsoever from the developing estate of the timelines. So they might get told in 2 months that they're going to be moving, or it might be in a year. They have absolutely no steer on that at all. And I think maybe work could be done while they're having these occasional licenses to maybe make representation to the estate to try and get a better steer on their timelines so that they can do that planning. But I personally would be quite happy for them to operate on occasionals for the time being, with the conditions that have been recommended, and in consultation either with the convener or by delegating to officers, depending on the mind of the board. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other members wish to contribute to the debate? it's certainly unusual circumstances. I don't know, in that development, just as an aside, is there retail provision? I mean, are there actual units that would become available? No. I'm not familiar with it. It's in a different bit of the countryside for me. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
Yes, there will be retail units coming. I think that's part of the next big stage of the development. They haven't actually done their like town square yet, which will have shops around the outside. And I think part of that is where the boxes are at the moment. So when they start the next big bit, then the boxes will move. It's just like they say, when are the boxes going to move? I should have said at the beginning, this is in my ward, so yeah. So I go to the development meetings, etc. So yeah, there will be retail units for them to rent and stuff, but it's in the next stage. So.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. So that might be the reasoning behind the moving the units. It's just when they need to build on that space that they'll move them. Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any other hands up. So can I just confirm that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision, members?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I'll call for a motion. I think, Ms. Black, you were more or less making a motion there.
Pretty much, yeah. You know how my mind works. Yes, I was pretty much going for a motion there. I would just reiterate the reasoning that I already laid out, that in these unique circumstances in this particular place, it is reasonable to carry on using occasional licenses for the time being. Okay. And considering the last decision that was made, further occasional licenses as they come in be decided under delegated powers.
Okay, thank you. Are you seconding, Mrs. Sullivan?
I am indeed. Yep.
Thank you. Is there an amendment at all? No. Teams call just disappeared and something popped up here. Is somebody trying to call into the meeting? No.
No, I have nobody trying to call into the meeting, Chair.
Okay. So there's no amendment. So in that case, is the motion as set by Ms. Black, is that a unanimous decision by the committee?
Yes.
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 Yeah. So can I just ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm that decision, please?
Thank you, Chair. So Mr. Christie, Mr. Gray, the applications have been granted, subject to the recommended conditions from Police Scotland and the Licensing Standards Officer, and that your submissions have convinced the board that there's a justification for an exception to policy here. So future applications will continue to be processed under delegated powers until such time as you are in a position to be able to apply for a premises licence. You'll receive written notification of the decision within the next 7 days, and your occasional licences will be issued to you in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Sullivan?
I was going to ask, since we've got 2 more items, could we have a 5-minute break, please?
Just in a minute. So I can confirm that this hearing has now concluded. So thank you for your interest in this business. I will now ask you to leave the meeting, and the Deputy Clerk will confirm the position before we progress to the next item on the agenda. Well, we've done that. So we want a comfort break. It's 3 o'clock almost, so 10 minutes?
Yes, please.
10 minutes,
That'd
okay?
Be great. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
3:10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop the recording and the live stream.